You are entering the Urban Suite. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about mental health. Let's talk about urban issues plaguing our community with Dr. Lisa LaCon. Let's talk about urban issues plaguing our community with Dr. Lisa LaCon. about mental health.
Hello, my urbanites. How are you all doing tonight? Oh my gosh, we have a huge show for you guys tonight. I'm telling you, but before we begin, I have to play something for you guys by Barrington Levy. Let me tell you, oh my gosh, yes.
So she didn't have a daughter, she didn't have a son. She said the lift doesn't work, run up the stairs and come. And if you don't come, we cannot run, no, that's run. So I grab a bunch of flows and I started to run. Rock down, whoa. 2 months later, she said, come and get your son. Cause I don't want your baby to come tie me down, not because you are old and I am young. Yes, while I'm young, yes, I wanna have some fun, run me down. Should live up a diddly, whoa. Swing, I'm broad, I'm broader than Broadway.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm broader than Broadway. When you go to Volcano, it's like a stage.
Listen, you all know what time it is. It's 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you have entered into the Urban Suite with Dr. Lisa LaCon. How are you all doing tonight? Oh my gosh. Listen, we're going to talk about the harder they fall. But before we get into that, I have some housekeeping things to discuss. Hey, you guys, I need you to like, I need you to share, and I need you to subscribe on my YouTube platform. My Facebook platform, I need you to follow me so you can be abreast when I come on, things of that nature, when I go live. Sometimes I do things that are not going to be scheduled. I just may pop in, pop out, but you gotta follow me. You gotta follow me. You have to subscribe. All right. So I need you to like, share, and subscribe. Now, also Urban Twos for Change. Once you enter the Urban Suite, it is sponsored by Bless Ministries Incorporated. That's www.bmiworks.org. That is our website. Bless Ministries Incorporated. We are the premier workforce development agency in the state of New Jersey. We work with those under the supervision of parole. We work with adults with disabilities. We work with youth with disabilities. We work with those receiving general assistance, those receiving food stamps. The proper terminology is actually SNAP, but a lot of people may not know what SNAP means. So that's who we are. And I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. Also, my urbanites, remember I told you I'm going to share people who are missing. So this is one of the he's real young. He's missing. And what is his name? His name is Kirk Downs. Now listen, Kirk Downs is missing from my hometown in Washington, D.C. Kirk Downs from the 1000 block of Maryland Avenue, Northeast Washington, D.C. He's been missing since Monday, yesterday, 7:15 a.m. If you have seen Kirk Downs, he's only, I believe, 12 years old. The Metropolitan Police Department is seeking the public's assistance locating 12-year-old Kirk Downs, who was last seen in the 1000 block of Maryland Avenue, Northeast, yesterday, Monday, November 28th, 2021. Kirk Downs is described as a Black male, 5'6" in height, 140 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. He was last seen wearing a red sweat shirt, blue jeans, and white red sneakers. Listen, this is why I need you to share, because I am posting people who are missing from our community, from our urban community. A lot of traction we have with this young lady, with Jashia Moore, a lot of traction with her. She's in my own backyard, East Orange, New Jersey. She's been missing for several weeks now. 14 years old, Josiah Moore. The reward was $10,000. They have upped the award to $15,000. So let's bring Josiah Moore home. Let's bring Kirk Downs home. So my Washingtonians, those of you all in Washington, please do me a favor and share. I cannot imagine as a mother, my 12-year-old child not coming home. So let's do our part. All right. So tonight, let me tell you, the harder they fall, we're going to dissect the harder they fall. And if you have comments, please just don't look at me like this. I want to engage with you guys because I want to get your thoughts. I'm going to tell you my thoughts, what I enjoyed, what I possibly didn't enjoy, things of that nature. I'm going to go all the way from the direction of the movie, who the director was, the producer, things of that nature, everything. We're going to get into it tonight. Now, when you came into the Urban Suite, I know a couple of you all were late. So I had Barrington Levy playing because I love the soundtrack in The Harder They Fall. But let's dig into it. All right. So who is the director? Because I always start with the director. Because the director, it is pretty much their narrative in a sense. It's what they want us to see based on the acting, based on the writing, and the delivery of the writing and things of that nature. So who is this director? So I wasn't too familiar with him at all. His name is James Samuel. Now, James Samuel is going to come from a different perspective than, say, for instance, an African descendant of slavery perspective, who is a director. He was born in London, England, and I believe he has Nigerian parents. Now, he is the younger brother of Seal. I love Seal. Oh my gosh. And they look just alike. He just looks a little younger and whatever. But he is the younger brother of Seal, who's the songwriter, singer, producer, things of that nature. So he's in his own lane, James. He's in his own lane right now. And one of the things that I noticed about this film off the bat is they did not use the N-word. Now, I'm coming from the perspective, I think if an African descendant of slavery had directed this movie, I believe the N-word, the ninja word, would have been splattered all throughout this film, and it was not. And I appreciate that because, again, when you are born in a different country, but you're still Black, your experience as a Black person is not going to be the same experience as a Black person who was born here in the United States. The culture is going to be different. The language is going to be different. The terminology of things is going to be different. In England, they may not have used and espoused that N-word like we have over here. So basically what you're going to find is that it really isn't necessary, even though it's a time piece. It's a period piece. It's a Western. So he has a couple of things to his credit. He did another Western in 2013, They Die by Dawn. And then in 2017, he actually directed JC Legacy, which was a short film. And then speaking of Jay-Z, whose real name is Sean Carter, he is one of the producers as with James Lasseter. So James Lasseter and Jay-Z, Sean Carter, produced this film as well as some other people. Now, James Lasseter works very closely with Will Smith. So he's done a lot of the Will Smith projects, and I believe that they're good friends. So you have James Samuel, who is a musician in his own right. He's a director and things of that nature. So he's an artist. Okay. So we're coming from that perspective, and he wasn't born here in the United States. Okay. So again, his perspective is going to be slightly different from ours who were born and raised in the United States. So then we're going to talk about the whole cast and everything. All right. So let's bring up the cast. So we have some pretty much heavy hitters in this cast. We have Idris Elba as Rufus Buck. We have Regina King as Trudy Smith. And let's see, who else do we have? What is his name? We have Jonathan Majors. Let's see, Jonathan Majors is right here. Yes, let me take this out. Hold on for a second. All right, so we have Lakeith Stanfield as Cherokee Bill, and then we have Delroy Lindo as Bass Reeves. So I'm going to go through each one. Idris Elba. Idris Elba was born in London, and his nationality is English and from Sierra Leone. So we have a very diverse Black population here. I call it the United Nations of Blackness, because you not only have people from here, from the African descendant of slavery, you have Blacks from Europe as well, who actually came from Africa. Okay, so you have Regina King. Regina King as Trudy Smith. Regina King is from California. You have Lakeith Stanfield. He actually is from California as well. So he played Cherokee Bill. And then you have Delroy Lindo. He's from London, born and raised in London, but he was trained in the United States. So that's the first group of people that you have. Idris Elba. I want you to keep this in mind. Idris Elba, who is born and raised in London. You have Regina King, who was born and raised here in the United States. Lakeith Stanfield, who was born and raised here in the United States in California. And then you have Delroy Lindo, who was born in London. So I just want you to keep that in mind, all right? So then you have the other cast. So you have Jonathan Majors as Nat Love. He's from California. You have Eddie Gathiji as Bill Pickett. He is from Kenya, but he was educated here in the United States. And then you have Zazie Beetz. Zazie Beetz was actually born in Germany, but she was raised in New York City. Her father is German and her mother is African American. And then you have Danielle Didweiler as Cuffy. She is from Atlanta, Georgia. I don't know about Atlanta, but she's from Georgia. And then you have RJ Seiler, who is from Florida. So one of the things that I really like about this movie is the diversity of Blackness. I love the diversity of Blackness because oftentimes we have a tendency to put Blacks against one another, the Blacks here versus the Blacks that come from Europe versus, but it was refreshing to see and to know that it wasn't a slave type movie, because to be perfectly honest, we are more than just slaves. And I'm so tired of seeing the movies like this. Where's Massa? Massa gonna come and get us. Oh, Weezebees as quiet as a field mice. You know, I'm a little tired of that. Okay, I'm a little tired of that. I'm a little tired of our clothing in those movies looking very torn and just ripped to shreds. It looks like we have potato sacks on. I'm tired of that. So this is the one word that I would use to describe this film. It was very redemptive on so many levels. Number one, it was redemptive because it did not throw out the N-word. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite scenes was when Regina King's character, and I'm not going to give too much away, but when Regina King's character, she got rid of a party goer who was about to use the N-word. And it was redemptive in that sense that, guess what? We are seeing Black people ride horses and not being chased by them by a person wearing a bed sheet, if you know what I mean. So it was very redemptive when it came to that. One other thing that I really love, this one right here. I loved that scene. The cinematography was fantastic. Let me tell you, I love that scene because it is so symbolic. You see the Bozeman. It's Chadwick Aaron Bozeman, and they walk past it, and it's sort of subtle, but you see the font is bright, white, bold, and then look at the party goers inside looking out. I mean, I loved it. I love the redemptive quality of this movie because, again, it did not have us, ooh, where's Massa? Massa gonna get us, looking with the bug eyes and doing all, it wasn't that at all. So it was redemptive when it came to that. Also, it was redemptive when it came to the language. I understood the language. However, the one problem that I did have, I didn't hear too many Southern accents. And I get a little like, Now, are they from Canada or are they supposed to be from Tennessee and Texas? I need to hear Southern drawl. And I have to say, Regina King's character, now you all know I love Regina King, but it was something about her dialect that it just didn't jive with me. I don't know what it was. It was as if she had like a slight hearing impairment. I'm serious. I don't know what it was. It was just her dialect just was a little off-putting to me. I mean, other than that, it was fine. Sometimes when it comes to Black Southerners, there's a very thin line between saying, how y'all doing versus we's bees hiding in the field. And I think as an actor and as a period piece, you have to decide that fine line between both. But if you don't use that Southern drawl, it takes away from it being authentic. So it would be like me playing a role, a main character in a role, and I grew up and I was raised in Jamaica and I sound like how I sound. It doesn't fly. It wouldn't fly with you. It wouldn't fly with me. There was one character that did it, and again, that was Daniel whatever her name is, Kufi. She did it because she's from Georgia, so I heard it. But the other ones, it kind of went in and out. It's like, but that's a result of the director not coming from this country and not really having a Southern experience. I think I heard y'all maybe once or twice, but y'all know, see, I just said it, y'all know, y'all, that's like a staple in the Southern vocabulary. Y'all be back. What's a face? What's a face? That's what we say too. What's a face? Not saying that needed to be there, but what I'm saying is I think it missed something with that Southern, the character. Even Zazie Beetz, she didn't quite have it for me. Like it sounded forced. It wasn't a natural Southern dialect. So that's one of the things that I didn't like about the film. The other thing that I experienced in watching the film, I fell asleep 3 times. I'm like, oh my gosh, why am I constantly falling asleep while watching this film? I don't know why. I thought it was a pretty decent film, but I kept falling asleep. Now, I have to admit, the first night I watched it, it was a Friday night, the end of a long work week, and I was extremely tired with a glass of wine. Nope, can't do that. Nope, can't do it. Can't do it. So I said, you know what? In all fairness, I'll give it another shot. So the following day, Saturday, I watched it again and fell asleep again. I'm like, oh my God, why am I falling asleep on this movie? Why am I falling asleep? And if I'm not falling asleep, I'm like, I have my phone and I'm like scrolling through, looking through Facebook, Instagram, going down the TikTok tunnel. I'm like, why am I falling asleep? So I said, okay, Saturday, I had a very long day. Took our youngest son on a college tour. They had us sitting outside for almost an hour and 15 minutes in the cold. So I attributed that to that experience of me driving to New York, touring. So when we got back home, I said, okay, let me watch it. I fell asleep. I'm like, oh my gosh, why am I falling asleep? So I said, today, my urban nights, I'm going to watch it again. The third time's a charm. And guess what? I fell asleep again. I don't know why I can't. I fell asleep. I even missed an appointment today. I fell asleep. I had such a hard sleep while watching this movie, but I thought it was, I don't know, it was weird. The cinematography, fantastic. Fantastic cinematography, hands down. The writing, hands down. Some of the lines, one line that I thought, it was very subtle, and this had a redemptive quality. When they were walking in the train, where they took over the train, and he told the white boy, he said, keep walking, boy. Listen, for a Black person, seriously, in my opinion, to call a white person boy is very redemptive, because for so many years, we had to picket and protest here with signs that says, I am a man, I am a man, because they have been calling grown men boys for so long and belittling them that it was like redemptive for you to say in that movie, keep walking, boy. I was like, oh my gosh, yes. Just that whole train scene, the train ride scene was just very redemptive. Regina King, as soon as she came on the scene, it sort of ignited something. I don't know, until she started to speak. I'm like, oh Lord, what is it? I don't know what I don't know what that was. I don't know what it was. It was just, to me, it fell flat with her dialect. So other than that, it was fine. Some other things that I thought about was, let's go back to, let me see, this one right here. Now, you all know this is Hollywood. So they're going to have someone that looks like Diane Carroll play, Harriet Tubman. So if you look at Zazie Beetz as Stagecoach Mary, now the real Stagecoach Mary looks nothing like Zazie Beetz at all. Like, nothing like Stagecoach Mary. And there have been talks circulating about colorism and how could Zazie Beetz, and why would Zazie Beetz play Stagecoach Mary? So look at the two. You can see Zazie Beetz, Stagecoach Mary. So my response to that is, it's Hollywood. I mean, come on, you guys. Let's be for real. Let me put up that picture again. Okay. Now, let's be honest. In my opinion, Stagecoach Mary, she did her thing. She did her thing. Stagecoach Mary wasn't concerned with fake fingernails, eyelashes, makeup, a weave, a wig. She wasn't concerned with that. She was concerned with handling her business. And it looks like that. Versus Zazie Beetz, her character was very slim, had the makeup on, the hair was poofed out. I mean, come on. At the end of the day, you guys, it's Hollywood, okay? So they're not going to, unfortunately, because colorism does exist, meaning that you have your decision and your choices are based on the skin color that you wear. Typically, even for me growing up, I experienced a lot of colorism within our own race. I was not seen as attractive. I was not seen as beautiful, but the lighter skin girls at that time, because they were girls then, they called them red bones. It was the red bones that got the most action. It was the red bones that got the most attention. If you looked like me and you were darker than me, you were relegated to the sideline. So that still persists here within our community, colorism. So, you know what? At the end of the day, Netflix wants to make money. And Netflix believes, as well as the director, that Zazie Beetz, for some reason, could play Stagecoach Mary. Now, to me, she looks nothing like, I'm gonna pull this up again. She looks nothing like Stagecoach Mary. But I mean, does Jonathan Majors really look like Nat Love? Like, no. Nat Love's hair was, I don't even know what his hair was doing. It looked like he's mixed with Native American and Black. It doesn't look anything like it. But I have to say, this one, let me see. Oh, Delroy Lindo as Bass Reeves, sort of. Is it the mustache? Maybe. But Lakeith Stanfield as Cherokee Bill, no. Regina King as Trudy Smith, no. Now, that picture of Trudy Smith, how Trudy Smith actually looks, is not as flattering as Regina King. So, I mean, listen, hey, Idris Elba as Rufus Buck. No. But again, this is Hollywood. And in Hollywood, they want to sell you an image. Okay. It's a fantasy. It's a fantasy. At the very beginning, they tell us in The Harder They Fall that the characters exist, but this movie line is sort of kind of fictional. Like, it really doesn't exist. But the characters, they really do exist. And it was redemptive in that you saw Black characters in the West not being tied up to a horse and being dragged, not being wiping down something just as a barmaid or a bartender or the piano player, because they have us as a piano player, just hitting the piano, playing the piano, because that's all we're good for in their eyes. So I thought it was good on that point in terms of it being very redemptive. Also, in terms of, like I said earlier, with this scene right here, this was one of my favorite scenes. Chadwick Aaron Boseman. I when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, such honor, such a subliminal message. Because let me tell you, if Chadwick Boseman would have been living, he probably would have been in this movie. Absolutely. And I believe he would have had a natural Southern drawl because he's from South Carolina. So anyway, let's get on about the soundtrack. Listen, I loved the soundtrack. Who did they have? They had Barrington Levy. They had Dennis Brown. They had Fisk Jubilee singers. Oh my gosh, they had who else? I'm missing somebody that I know. I know it was Lauryn Hill, Fatoumata Diawara, and Lauryn Hill. They had that. The soundtrack, I love the soundtrack. Now, some people may think it was a little off-putting, putting reggae with the Western. But I thought it was refreshing because it was just something new. It was something new, but why did I constantly fall asleep during this movie? Like, I don't know why. I don't know. I don't know. I thought it was refreshing the way they played the uh the reggae and the song usage. And when they put in the Fisk Jubilee singers, I I thought it was fantastic. And to me, it was a wonderful opportunity for people's uh, ability to understand different genres of music, because now people may think, okay, well, who's singing this? So he has expanded. You know, a lot of people do know Barrington Levy, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't know Fisk Jubilee singers, um, especially perhaps in a different country. So I thought the exposure of the genres of music was fantastic. Now, I don't know why he chose that music as opposed to traditional, but maybe because he didn't want the traditional music. And what is the traditional music? Because there's several. Like if you look at a Clint Eastwood movie, you have the dun, 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 dun. You know, it's kind of stringy. This one is bass. You know, we're going in there with the bass. We're going in there with the reggae. It's our seasoning. That's what it is. It's our seasoning that we have. We don't just have the string instrument. We have the bass. And that's what I believe portrayed in this. But then again, remember, he is raised in London with Nigerian parents. So the music that he grew up with is going to be infused with reggae. So this is interesting. My husband was born in Guyana and raised in London. So in London, they have pockets of a lot of Caribbean people. They have pockets of a lot of African people. They have pockets of a lot of Indians. Um, and all of them seem to come together in a sense, unlike here. So my husband's family in London is very mixed. He has a lot of white aunts. He has a lot of white cousins. It's very multicultural. So when my husband arrived to this country, it was a shock to his system because he was told, this is what he was told as a kid growing up, that the white man is the devil. So he was like, wait, my aunt is the devil? I've been eating next to the devil all my life. I've been playing with the devil. I mean, can you imagine? Can you imagine as a child growing up from that to this, from eating with, playing with, socializing with one group, and then coming to this country and being told that that group is just demonic in nature? I mean, that I can't imagine as a child. I cannot imagine as a child. But I say that to say that our perspectives are totally different, regardless of the skin that we're in. It's different. However, if Jameis Samuel walked in a room and I walked in a room and we walked in a room together, we would still have this black skin, and people would not realize the cultural differences that exist between us until we started to do what? Until we started to speak. Our dialect is so different. Sometimes I don't even understand what my husband's family, my in-laws, are saying. And when I first were introduced to my in-laws, I had no clue what they were saying sometimes. Now, my husband doesn't have an accent. He only has an accent when he may get upset, when he's yelling at the kids, or if he's yelling at me. But the good news is I don't even understand what he's saying when he's yelling, because I just don't get it. I just don't know. I don't. But we have cultural differences. Our cuisine is different. Our music is different. Our language is different. And what I appreciated about this film was it incorporated the United Nation of Blackness. There were so many differences when it came to the music, when it came to the style, everything. And I love that. And again, when it came to not using the N word, I really appreciate it. So this is my take. My take was you can watch it. You should watch it because it's very redemptive. The one thing that I wish it could have been more kid friendly, because I think more Black children need to see images like that. When you open a magazine, when you look at a TV show and you see characters that do not look like you, it plays with your self-esteem. And a show, a movie, a film, whatever you call it, something like this can be a teachable moment, but it had too much profanity in it. Too many F-bombs, too many MFers, I get it. I get it. So in that respect, it's going to be challenging showing this to your younger children because there were so much profanity. I wish there were a version of it, and it could be where it was kid friendly to listen to because it's very, very educational in the sense that you could look at these characters right here, go to a book and say, okay, yes, this is Stagecoach Mary. And what her job was, she was responsible for transporting messages in a certain region. And she was the first African-American woman to do so. Because if you rely on the textbooks that we don't produce, that we don't publish, you would think that we did not exist in the West. You would think that. So this film to me can be educational. However, I caution parents because it has a lot of profanity in the movie. Although it didn't use the N word, it used almost every other word. There was a lot of blood, but you all know I like blood and gore and guts and stuff like that. It wasn't as much as I expected. It wasn't as much as I expected, but it was there. So if you don't like seeing people being shot and the blood like spewing all over the place, this may not be the movie for you. All right. So anyway, does anyone have any comments about the movie? I didn't want to give too much away because I know a lot of people have not seen the movie. It is worth viewing. I have to say it is worth viewing. But for me, like I said, I fell asleep 3 times. I don't know why. I don't know why I fell asleep 3 times while watching this movie. I thought it was pretty good. But I guess my grade would be a B minus. I give it a B minus. One, because it did put me to sleep and I was distracted oftentimes when scenes they were talking and things of that nature. Number 2, Regina King's accent or dialect. I don't know what that was. It just rubbed me the wrong way. But the redemptive qualities of this movie, outstanding in terms of not using the N word. Redemptive quality in terms of us not looking like we lived on a plantation and we were slaves in clothes, wearing a potato sack. Redemptive in that we had the ability to take over things. We had the ability to have our own town. We even robbed the bank from the other side of town and got away with it. I mean, that's redemptive for us because how often do we see that? Back in the day, we were hanged if we were caught, being taught how to read. So, I mean, that's the reality of here in the United States. You would have been hanged if you were caught trying to learn how to read. So, guess what? It was very redemptive having other people being called a boy. It was very redemptive when the white guy, he was getting ready to say the N word, and then he no longer had any more words to say. Very redemptive, in my opinion, because for so long we see all of these images of us not riding horses, but being chased by a horse or being dragged by a horse by a man in a white sheet. You understand what I'm saying? Very redemptive. Very redemptive. Now, the characters, they were robbers, they were murderers, so they weren't the most positive characters, but they existed. It is what it is. They existed. Um, and yeah, so I give it a B minus. I encourage you to watch it. Hopefully, you won't fall asleep like me. I mean, I could not believe, how did I fall asleep? This is the first movie I've seen and have attempted to watch 3 times and have fallen asleep each time. And I guarantee it, if I wake up one morning and I watch it, I probably will fall asleep again. I don't know why. I don't know. Anyway, it's worth it. If you enjoy Westerns, I enjoy Westerns also. A good Western is very good. I love the writing also. The lines, very witty. The writing on point. I think this movie is going to be the start of something else. The one thing that I have to say is, I wish our people could have our own Netflix, because at the end of the day, we don't own Netflix. At the end of the day, we really don't own anything. And you see the power of us when we galvanize and watch a film, how many people watch it. And that is a very dangerous thing to other people, very dangerous to other people. So, I know this is Hollywood. I know this is a Netflix production. This is a start, but I'm praying that we have our own. We have our own streaming service without selling out. We have our own streaming service where we can show movies like this, whereas little Black boys and little Black girls won't, they'll start to understand and know that, yes, we were here in the 1800s in the Wild, Wild West, in a sense. Instead of thinking we're always on a plantation, picking cotton, talking about, where's Miss Mary? Miss Mary's going to kill us, with the big eyes. I mean, it's refreshing. And I really hope that this is the start of something big. And we need to talk more about Blacks in the West, the Western world, and the images that we saw growing up, which was none, versus now. So I'm hoping that this is sort of like the 8-track tape, and we're going to evolve from this. I really do, because at the end of the day, we existed. At the end of the day, we were here. But based on textbooks here in the United States and probably abroad, you would never believe that these people existed. So it is a very teachable moment. Again, if your children are 13 and under, I would definitely caution you, because there is a lot of profanity in the movie. However, the teachable moment is, guess what? This is who we were. This is what we looked like. This is It is what it is. We existed. And that's the thing that I love. And that's the ultimate redemptive quality about this film. We existed at the very beginning, but they existed. We existed. This is who we are. And I don't know where we're going to go in terms of genres of movies like this, but it was very refreshing. So on that note, let me play something else. Well, I'm not going to play something else. I'm going to sign off with Barrington Levy, Here I Come, which was in the movie. So I need you all to enjoy. Yes. Yes, it's going to kick in right soon.
Into Pomerose, tell me to come. So she didn't have a daughter, she did have a son. She said, no, it doesn't work. Run up the stairs and come. And if it don't come quick, you're not gonna know that's one. So I grab a bunch of flows and I started to run. Here I come. Whoa. 2 months later, she said, come and get your son. Cause I don't want your baby to come tie me down because you are old and I am young.